Hello there and welcome back to the SWTVC podcast, the audio home of the SWTVC crew and the ongoing push for the continued existence, expansion, and success of the heritage scale of Star Wars collecting. I'm your host, Evan Fries, or as you may know me on Instagram, @MileHighGround, and today I am joined by the immeasurably amazing John Lindquist, aka @The Vintage Concepts. Actually, you're kind of the host of the show, but don't tell anyone else. We can do this.
I just provide incredibly detailed lists.
You know what?
From research, but you do all the actual heavy lifting and all the behind the scenes work.
I don't know, man. The research is pretty integral to doing a research-based show. So thank God for you is all I'll say.
Sorry, it's more reminders for a lot of this stuff because we'll get into it, but
For sure. So today we are gonna kind of dive into talking about books and figures based on books and comics and all of that fun stuff. But before we jump into that meaty topic of the day, John, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I have slept since the last episode. I was very tired last time. I'm still fairly tired, but I'm back to my normal amount of tired, so it's nice.
All right, you kind of back in your normal time zone, like feeling adjusted. Good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. I don't have that excuse for why I've been dragging ass the past couple weeks, but what can you do? At least they're super understanding at work.
Starting a new job can be as intense as traveling across the world sometimes. So
yeah.
Even more so.
I don't know if I'd rather travel across the world or have a routine where I have to spend the rest of my foreseeable future waking up at 6 a.m. But hey, fair trades.
Yeah. Oh my God.
6 a.m. is late compared to my usual coffee shift days. So I think
I only wake up at 6 a.m. when there's a Star Wars celebration to get in line for, or a Target pre-order to pre-order and then miss out on and get canceled 6 months later. That whole rigmarole. So, I wake up for the fun stuff only.
I got to say that this hobby uniquely prepares you for getting really crappy, stressful sleep and still being able to wake up on a dime to, either do a pre-order or get to work on time or just on time. So I don't know. I guess thanks, Hasbro. Thanks, crippling materialism. I don't know. Anyway, I know there's not a whole lot since we last chatted in terms of stuff we've gotten in the mail, but, I like to start off the episodes asking what came in for you. What was your mail call? I know I've got a couple things, but John, did you get anything in the last couple weeks since we last chatted?
I think the main new thing is the Navarro Cantina Stormtrooper with the E-Web, the fourth Rocker Ankle Stormtrooper. I think it was the first one to be announced, but it's the fourth we've gotten in the past couple months.
Yeah.
I guess it was announced alongside the Incinerator Trooper with Grogu, but between those guys and then the two gaming greats, we're flush with Rocker Ankle Stormtroopers at the moment. It's nice. It's a fun set. It fell forward and then kind of got warped. Like I didn't notice it for several hours, and then so kind of dealing with that still. But I love the blast effects. I love the details on it. It is obviously smaller than the rocket firing one from 1997, but I'll assume it's more accurate, and it's fun to have it. And I'm not used to the not having 40 packages arrive every day like it was a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure will be again very soon.
Yeah, it's I can feel it beginning to ramp up again now that the Din Djarin Morak wave is starting to be more plentiful. At least the individual figures from that shipping out, which I did get the Stormtrooper with the E-Web, which was great, but thanks Walmart for sending me two in an envelope that were totally smashed. So I just opened them both, and I got to track down one that's not horribly screwed up, because still with these $20-some deluxe figures, I still got to collect two. So
and I got one, and it was in a box, like perfectly sized to it. There was like a slight ding on one corner, but it was totally fine. So
yeah,
it's so weird.
It's a gamble, man. But I will say, so I complained recently, I think last episode it was, me complaining. ARC Trooper Jesse, my carded sample, the only one that I had, was decapitated in the bubble. His head was floating above his body, and that was bothering me, even though the package was minty. And it was like, anyway, I got another one from Amazon, and he was shipped in a box, no padding, but Looks super mint, like almost totally flat. He's not decapitated, so I can finally open that Django wannabe and complete my ARC Trooper crew. So
yes, does it have the? I noticed in my case, which I opened since last time we recorded from Entertainment Earth, the only figure that really had the white, whatever that is, the bubble outline, the scuffing to the right side of the bubble. The only one was Jesse, and there was a lot of it on that one. How does yours look?
There is none.
Oh my god,
on him. So
wow, amazing. I'm gonna have to order from Amazon, even though I don't usually like to do that. But
I hate it. But they did also send me into crippling debt on an overdraft. But they did send me also to cripple me. They sent me 4 of these guys, the Mandalorians, and I haven't opened one yet because they're all also fairly minty, although it does have a little bit of the bubble residue or whatever, the imprint.
Yeah, the Airborne Death Watch. My guy has his viewfinder. I only got the one from the case so far. I haven't gotten any of the singles shipped. I ordered some from Pulse and Entertainment Earth and waiting on them. I ordered too many probably from Entertainment Earth. They're trying to collect them all.
Yeah.
But the viewfinder, rangefinder thing is rotated forward in the bubble. If I'm going to complain, that's a very minor complaint. But it's just interesting to see that. So I'm kind of looking for one that has it. I'll get like 22 more or something.
Okay, I was gonna say I can hook you up with one of my 4 extras, but
yeah, I'm sure I'll have plenty of options when the time comes. But thank you.
Yeah, I'm frustrated that I have too many minty samples to choose from, so that's why I haven't opened a single one yet. So
what a problem to have.
Yep.
And I know you've been getting more into the Disney Droid Factory since we've been talking about that more.
Way too into it. Damn you, dude! Like it's so good.
It's so good. I offered you so many times over the years to get you these droids when they were cheap and plentiful.
I know, and yet, I mean, I feel like I didn't miss some of the big ticket ones. Like you got me Chopper, which forever thank you. That's my favorite one so far, and
it's probably the best one they've done.
I'm gonna bite the bullet eventually and buy another one to open up because I know Hasbro's at this point probably never gonna get around to it. And
yeah, maybe
maybe
they'll repack him in a little 4-pack for the Ahsoka series or something.
Yeah,
Disney Parks will. Or I mean, because they keep repainting him, and he's just now coming out at D23 this weekend as the C1940, the 1940 Mickey Mouse.
Okay, now that makes
Chopper
more
version.
sense. I was trying to figure out the naming convention on that one. So
yeah, that's always some kind of little pun. God bless him. But
you gotta love it.
Yeah, so. I did finally bite the bullet, and I got like a $40 R3S6, as we were talking about. The only piece I was missing, the piece I traveled around the world to get, and still couldn't get it. So I said, that's a sign from the Force that I should just probably buy it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I think we were. I was jealous that you were able to fill the hole in your soul for such a reasonable dollar amount, and here I am sitting here, really staring at the lightsaber set that they did for D23 with the 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi hilts, and it's like $550 at the show, and I think the cheapest it's going on eBay is like $1,000. And I'm just sitting here, just like, all right, I'm gonna let me stack a couple more paychecks and see how I'm feeling about this later. So
as I was watching all the reveals come out, there weren't a ton. It was just cool trailers for Star Wars and a lot of Marvel announcements that they didn't tell anybody about outside of the show. But I was like, I probably should have gone to that, but that's okay. Next time.
Yeah.
But all these exclusive figures.
Yeah, they don't make it easy for you.
Yeah, they really don't. So in terms of the Droid Factory, I do still need one more of the mystery crate droids. I think it's the blue BB unit, which aren't that bad online. And then I need the Pride droid from last year, of course.
Yeah.
One day. So, the $40 R3S6, it's not the last. It's the last of the ones from the parts bins, but I got a ways to go still, so it's all right. Got to have a mountain to climb. Collecting, of course.
I hear you, man. Well, thanks to you, I have 4 of those mystery crate droids. So again, thank you, John. You're a godsend. So
thanks to my friends who got 20 of them at the at Disneyland, and I was like, all right. And then I still only got somehow 5 of the 6 characters.
I looked all over for them when I was there for Celebration. I could not find them anywhere. I think that was like on the tail end.
Gone already.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But I was able to stack up those R710 TNOs or TN0s.
Yes.
So that was fun.
No, well, with B2 emote, you mentioned with R17 R7 Tana, whatever. Some of these figures go up on Shop Disney, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes the 4-packs do. Like the Mandalorian 4-pack still hasn't ever gone up. A friend got that for me when he went to Disneyland, but the Obi-Wan's set,
it was really plentiful when I was there.
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes they're super easy to find for months on end, but you still have to get there or know somebody who's going there. So I don't know.
The Obi-Wan pack. I didn't mean to cut you off there with the Obi-Wan pack. But that went up. the other night, and you were the first person I texted, and of course you were asleep, you reasonable idiot. So you missed it, but luckily I ordered you one. But
yeah, the West Coast folks are really screwed on these because they go up at like 2 or 3 in the morning for
I
us.
checked right at 1:30, I think, or 1:15. Well, I think it may have been about midnight your time, a little past midnight your time. Okay. So you must have just gone to bed. That's why I texted you like, wake up.
Yeah. So. I turn off my my buzzer so I don't wake up.
Yeah, I get you.
While you guys are texting me about stuff, but
yeah,
probably should turn it back on, I guess. Clearly,
I was gonna say, man, you got to be prepared. You always got to be prepared to jump out of bed at a moment's notice to spend money. So they were cheaper online though. It was $29.99. Is that?
Yeah. What was it previously? I saw people commenting on that. It used to be $39 or $49.
I think so. I don't know. Regardless, weirdly enough, those haven't shipped yet because usually my Disney orders ship really quick. But my extra B2MOs shipped finally. So
mine shipped as well. I think they might be coming today. I'm not sure, but it took them like 3 or 4 days to ship. So I was a little bit like, because my cards weren't processing, and like the app versus the mobile site versus the desktop site, it was all a little bit confusing. But I think we'll have our droid soon enough.
When I added that extra one, it said out of stock, and I don't know why it let me. So like it let me add out of stock items to my cart and still check out. It was weird. So that's why I was sitting there waiting for the shipping to happen. I was like, is that gonna happen? So anyway, I'm glad because I already had one for myself, carded Minty, and then an opener, and that droid is fantastic. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to, cover the bases there, make sure you had one, make sure my cousin has one, and we'll see what happens with the other one, huh?
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some extras because I know it still hasn't hit England or Europe yet. So we'll see.
But they did get the C49 or C1940 over
I think it showed up at the UK Disney store really quickly. Right. So I don't think it's gone on Shop Disney. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows how it all works. But yeah, so you've got me running around scrambling like, I love these now. So I have.
So if you ever say there's not enough TVC, there's still plenty of other Star Wars figures to be collecting right now.
Yeah.
In this heritage
I'm actually,
scale,
I have to go pick it up tomorrow. I got the 40th, the only 3 3/4 inch mildly articulated 40th anniversary figures for A New Hope, the R2 and C3PO pack. I picked that up for like $20 on Mercari. Nice. So
I have those guys right behind me somewhere on the droid shelf. They might be on the New Hope shelf. I got to organize a lot, but they're back there somewhere.
I hear that, man. I hear that. So God, I wish I didn't love those things now. Never cared about droids. So I wonder if couple years from now I'll just be like, I'm looking for all the clones. I'm a clone guy now. No, I don't know. I think I don't know. I was thinking about that. This is a quick aside, with the Droid Factory stuff. I sit there and I look at, for example, that kids show that they just announced, the High Republic kids show that
the Young Jedi Knights.
Yeah. And things like that. Man, I know it'd be creepy to have human body parts and whatnot in a bin, but why don't they have like a little Jedi apprentice figure builder that's like, or a clone figure bins that you can just assemble your own colorful troopers and Jedi too.
Maybe the reason you just said, I think, I don't know if Lucasfilm just wants to stick to droids only, but Marvel has no problem with decapitated, loose heads and arms and everything else in their Legends packages. So it's possible.
Sure, it would be off-putting to walk into a Disney store or like the Disney parks and see a bin of decapitated child heads, but like we're also fans of Revenge of the Sith, so it's not like we have anything against dead kids. So,
oh my God,
keep the Order 66 momentum rolling, guys.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, you had mentioned the gaming greats a little bit earlier, and we've gotten quite a few of those recently in the Black Series. No, in the Vintage collection, we've gotten some the last couple of years, which has been nice. It did take a couple years for gaming greats to make the jump from Black Series to Vintage collection. Didn't they start doing them? When was that? Was that 2020, 2019 that they started? 2019?
I remember getting them around, 2019, 2020 in Black Series.
Yes.
And then,
okay.
I don't have the Black Series notes right here ready to go, but
that's fine. We're not really here to talk about that. There's just some that I look at that would be great opportunities where it's like, if they don't want to take up a mainline slot, like they did for Black Series, where they took another crack at Jango Fett for 6-inch collectors and gave them a better head deco and different jetpack and whatnot for the Bounty Hunter game, instead of saying Attack of the Clones proper and not taking up a mainline slot. I would love to see them do that, you know, even though it's the 20th of Attack of the Clones. Obviously, they're not going to do anything else for it. I think it would be great if they did, you know, a gaming great Jango Fett from Bounty Hunter for us, because they have all the Mando parts for it at this point. Be nice. But we're not here to talk about gaming.
Yes.
We're here to talk about publishing.
Oh, what?
Which is something that, similar to Gaming Greats, rolled out in Black Series, I think 2019-ish, 2020. Mainly 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere in the past 2 years.
Yeah, time is a flat circle.
But
the last 2 years has
yeah.
been like a 6-year spread of making no sense. So, but yeah, so, you know, in Gaming Greats, you've seen in TVC, you've seen plenty of expensive old figures getting repacked or, you know, reissued or getting another chance under the Gaming Greats banner, or using, you know, kind of Gaming Greats as an impetus for it, like Shea Visla getting an update. That's an expensive aftermarket figure. We're getting Star Killer again, probably just a reissue, I think is what they've said. Probably not a gaming, well, maybe a gaming great. So he's an expensive secondary market figure too. So nice to see him again.
They can just slap that logo on the back of the figure. I think it's kind of whatever, you know.
Yeah, but you know, talking about publishing, Black Series has gotten a lot of fun things, and some that have been really painful to watch as 3 3/4 inch collectors.
Yeah.
Of things from the absolute plethora of sources to choose from when it comes to Star Wars publishing, be it comic books, be it novels, junior novels, any of that stuff, be it legends or canon, just since, you know, the 70s till now, it's a storied history. I mean, the books and comics really were the lifeblood of Star Wars for the longest time, when we all thought the movies were donezo. So that was our Star Wars for quite a long time, in between the gaps between the original trilogy and the prequels, and the prequels and the sequels. Now we don't have to worry about having gaps and getting new Star Wars. We're spoiled every couple months with something new. But we're still getting rad books, but we're not getting any figures from any of this stuff, which is a huge corner. It's not even a huge corner. It's a large chunk of the entire shape that makes up Star Wars at this point. So I don't know, man. Let's talk about some publishing greats. Is that what they're called officially, or is that what people have kind of done?
I think that's just, there's got to be a better alliterative name for that, with the Gaming Great publishing principles. The princes of publishing, the best of books, book bests. I don't know.
Book bests. Was it literary legends is what I was thinking of last night. But also Steele McFarlane's Daddy Todd's Page Punchers. So, yes. I don't know.
Are those figures supposed to be punching the pages? Are you supposed to punch them out? I don't understand the punchers. Because Superman punches people. I don't know.
They do the paint apps by punching them. So
looks like it. So yeah, like you said, I think we'll get into more of the Black Series, but they are doing a new expression in the Black. I guess it did start with the Lucasfilm 50th in 2021 of, you know, celebrating. Like you said, there is so much Star Wars to cover right now, and we're still begging for main characters from the TV series and of course from the movies and everything. But this is maybe not the top priority for a lot of people, but it is another corner to explore. It's another avenue to explore because the Black Series is getting them, it shows that there is, you know, some level of demand for them, because it keeps they keep making more waves of them for Black Series. So,
well, the reason I think it's good to talk about now is, yes, like you said, we don't get as many figures. It's 2022. We don't get a lot, but these don't work. A lot of these, like they do in Black Series, it's not a place where it's not a parking lot for all new sculpts. It's a lot of reuse. It's a lot of creative reuse, kit bashing, partial tooling to kind of keep costs down, but still provide a wide variety of, you know, figures and, you know, source materials, where I think that's kind of where I'm starting to get at when asking about, and when it comes to TVC, where it doesn't all have to be new stuff, but how can we creatively get these into the line while still not breaking the budget and allowing for all the wonderful new stuff that we're also asking for in the main line.
Definitely. Just had to clarify that before we get any, of
course,
where's my Rogue One crew comments from, you know,
where are the rebels? Bring me Ben Kenobi, not the other one. So
there's a lot to get to, but as you will see previously in the line, there was plenty of space for this sort of thing. Yes, there you go.
All right,
should I
that's
go
the
into the
episode,
history?
the end.
Yes. I was gonna say, because we're kind of talking about the Black Series. Do we want to get into those now, or do we want to? Well, let's do the history, and we'll bring
Do the
those
history
guys back
because
to the
Black
beginning.
Series will bring us in modern era. So
Got it. So, yes. So throughout the line, there have been a lot of publishing figures. I'm going to sprinkle in, a little bit of video game, a little bit of micro series figures, as we go along, just to kind of paint the picture of where we are in the line. So, of course, in the modern line, came back in 1995. In 1996, there was the Shadows of the Empire, quote-unquote, multimedia event, which was created because the prequels were not going to be on time, but Lucasfilm still wanted to have its partners up and running and making a lot of money for them. So Shadows of the Empire was born. On Hasbro's part, there was a wave of 5 figures in the Shadows of the Empire purple branding, including Chewbacca and Bounty Hunter disguise, which was my first ever Star Wars figure, as well as everyone's favorite Han Solo wannabe, Dash Rendar. Gotta love him in those big old shoulder pads. God bless him. But there were a couple of 2-packs, which included an Empire Strikes Back Boba and IG-88 for the first time in the modern line, multiple Prince Shizors, and there were 3 vehicles, including something that we are still familiar with, a repack of the Slave One. This was the Kenner version brought out again for a new decade in the 90s. So yeah, that was a nice, kind of went alongside the comic and the novel and the video game. So they're, kind of video game figures. We're going to push that down. But that was the first really dipping the toe into the expanded universe sort of thing.
well, if I may jump into that real quick.
Jump in anywhere and everywhere, yes.
I know 6-year-old me when Shadows of the Empire came out and, they did the figures for that. I remember seeing those figures and, being like, oh, what is that? Like because, I was a 6-year-old and the internet wasn't, a daily thing that you got on to just catch up on news, especially as a child in the 90s. Yes. But being really curious about these and thinking they were super awesome. And then, over the following couple of years, those made their way into my quote unquote collection, my figure playtime box. And I just remember thinking, what are these? What are they from? And then, I think I read Shadows of the Empire for the first time in 2000. So after I had kind of really fallen off into the deep end and stuff with episode 1, and really learning more about Star Wars. And it was really one of those things that on top of the Jedi Apprentice books that I read all the time as a kid, that one really opened my eyes to the, OT era novels and really lit a fire under me. And I've been devouring those books ever since. I mean, there's tons of original of the original run of Legends books that I remember reading a lot as a kid and as I got a little older. But Shadows of the Empire does stick out to me since it had action figures for it. And I remember seeing the action figures before I even knew the book was a thing and being so fascinated by that. And it was, my first steps into a larger world.
Yes.
So anyway.
Well, because it came out right before. I didn't get into Star Wars until the special editions a year later. But the figures were still available. So for me, even though I didn't know what they were from, I wasn't familiar with the story, and I still actually have not read it. So get mad at me in the comments, folks. But
I know another podcast we can do or something.
Yeah, yes, that's true.
John reads Shadows of the Empire for the first time.
Hell yeah. But like you said, I didn't know what they were from, but it was still like, oh, this is awesome. Chewbacca's in disguise as a bounty hunter. Oh, this is cool. It kind of unlocks your imagination. Yeah, with a sweet buzz cut and some. He dyed his fur in a couple places for some reason. Yep. But
the Lucan armor, man, just loved that. Yeah. Love that.
Gotta have a removable helmet, even though everybody these days they want the swappable, but back in the day the removable was the way to go.
Yeah.
But even Leia and Boush's disguise, which was obviously really from Return of the Jedi, but they kind of build it as a Shadows of the Empire figure. But it kind of unlocks other story possibilities for your playtime, for your shelf, for whatever. I know that book. That multimedia event holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. I don't know if the story itself holds up these days. It was already rewriting what the original Marvel comics had already said happened in that period, and now it is being rewritten by the new Marvel comics.
It's all cyclical. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yes. So that's your Shadows of the Empire. So then a couple years later, in 1998, was the first time we saw the expanded universe branding with a trademark on the figure line, maybe on anything. I don't know for a fact. I was reading that the term expanding the universe probably came into use around 1996. Good old Pablo Hidalgo said on Twitter a few years ago that it was at some point that it was used on the Star Wars Insider for the first time. First time he remembers it in 1996, as they were kind of trying to bring all the non-movie stuff under one branding and act like it counted, even though to George it never did. That's a whole nother topic. So yeah, anyway, the Expanded Universe subline was really a wave of the Power of the Force 2, similar to Shadows of the Empire, but there were 9 figures based on things like the Dark Empire comics, the Heir to the Empire comics and books, and the Dark Forces video game, introducing fan favorite characters like Mara Jade, Thrawn, and Kyle Katarn. Those cards, again, I didn't know anything about those characters, but the cards were awesome. They turned into a, quote, 3D play scene, kind of like a pop-up book if you would just cut along the back and pop them open, and you could put the figure back there, and it looked like artwork from the comics. It was really cool. Yeah, there was also around that time a wave of 3 vehicles based on concept art, which we're going to throw in there. They classified as publishing items since they sourced them from the Art of Star Wars books, which were really like a snowspeeder, speeder bike, and cloud car concept. So they were under the branding, but we're getting a little bit loosey with it. But so yeah, a lot of those fan favorite characters in that lineup.
Thrawn, I remember I scored that figure. I had that figure as a kid. I don't know what happened to it, but I was at a collectible shop in whatever year he was debuting in Rebels. It was probably the week before the Rebels trailer that he showed up in hit or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I had seen a Thrawn in a shop for like $4, $5, and couldn't resist.
Wow.
I picked him up, and then the week later it's like, oh, Thrawn's recanonized. I was like, ha, yes.
Yeah.
So.
You have a way of. So that was on the other end where you didn't spend a lot on something that was about to be relevant again, but typically it's the other way around. So you're a prophet either way.
Yeah, something in the past couple of years really crossed those wires, and now I'm screwed. So,
so yeah, they a couple years later, Power of the Jedi didn't really have a whole lot, but they had again more concept art figures. The concept art trend continued into that line with just a handful of figures, including 1 Darth Maul, 1 Qui-Gon, and 2 Obi-Wan. They were based on unused Phantom Menace designs, but not labeled as such. And on their the Jedi Force files, they were given in-universe backstories. And I personally pretended that they were from the Jedi Apprentice series, which you mentioned, and I loved back in the day. I read a lot of them. I don't know how many there were. I'm sure they continued long past the time I stopped reading them, but
it's like 20 some.
Yeah, they had like Jedi training, quote unquote, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Really, those like darker outfits that they were going to wear before they ended up just wearing the Jedi robes from the original trilogy. Yeah, it was an awesome little, just a way to sprinkle them into the line.
Cold weather gear Obi-Wan got a lot of snow,
yes.
Winter snow time play from me. I could do an entire episode just on those 4 figures.
Yes.
I loved those so much. Obi-Wan could hold lightsaber. I was a sucker for any figure that held its lightsaber with both hands.
Oh, the training one, yes.
Yeah, the training Obi-Wan did.
I imagine the cold weather one, because as we mentioned on the other show, the Jedi who were like the Jedi dropouts, the Jedi castouts, they would go be farmers on different planets or whatever. So I imagine that was Obi-Wan.
Agricultural core, yeah.
Yeah, he was, I don't know, ice fishing or something off on Renvar or whatever. But yeah,
I was so floored in Clone Wars, or in the Clone Wars, in the, I don't know what season that was, but a variation of that costume ended up getting translated into canon, and we saw it in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Amazingly, I
Season
don't
1
have
Trespass.
Yeah.
You all really don't have that one?
I don't have the Anakin and Obi-Wan and cold weather gear figures from the Clone Wars lines. So I'll have to track
cold
those
weather
down.
figure.
So yeah,
yes,
right.
Which does remind me of a couple figures that I forgot. I'll jump ahead a little bit just before I forget. In the Clone Wars animated line, in addition to the figures based on the show, of course, they had a couple based on the comics from the show, which were Cold Weather Plo Koon and Cold Weather Kit Fisto, which I have displayed next to the Cold Weather Anakin and Obi-Wan and Rex from the series, which love a good cold weather figure, no matter what they're from. So write more cold weather comics, and then we'll get more cold weather figures.
Right? Can we get some more like animation and stuff just set in the snow? Like I love the Ilum episodes of Clone Wars. I love Empire Strikes Back on Hoth. Like, love me a good snow battle.
We got the Mandalorian figure that you just showed, the airborne loyalist guy. He was from the Snow episode, as I said previously.
Oh, and Maldo Kreese, Mando, and Grogu.
Yes.
And the spiders. So yeah, I like Snow stuff.
Maybe
Hasbro.
once winter comes, we'll do a whole Snow episode. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. That'll be our winter, that'll be our Christmas episode.
Yes.
Our holiday special.
Yes, hell yeah. So back to the original Clone Wars subline in 2003. Similar to Shadows of the Empire, it was sort of Lucasfilm working with their various partners to create a multimedia event in between the movies, between episode 2 and 3, as the Clone Wars were happening in universe. They were happening on store shelves. The figures were released alongside the micro-series, but they seem to be based more on their comic appearances, or I don't know, maybe the comics are based on the figure appearances. I think they were all kind of working together to design these characters at the same time. Similar, jumping back to Shadows of the Empire for a second, some of the vehicles like the Outrider and the Swoop were designed for the special edition, but because of the lead times on that, they plucked them out and put them into Shadows of the Empire. So not the other way around. So get it right, folks. Anyway. So yes, the Clone Wars 2003 line introduced armored versions of the Jedi heroes, but they also brought in characters who would go on to become fan favorites like Dirge, to a degree, more so Asajj Ventress and the ARC Troopers.
Dirge was just recanonized last year.
Yes, in the Dr. Aphra comics, right?
They haven't done. I'm so behind on the comics. Perfect to be talking about publishing, but yeah, I hope they do more with that character. I remember, again, this 2003 line, much like those concept art figures that we just talked about. This was another thing that I just went absolutely apeshit for. Like, these were figures that I could not get enough of. I still think of the packaging to this day. I actually went back and replaced all of my originals like 2 years ago. I found a lot on eBay for super cheap.
Really?
And oh dude, that subline is just incredible. To this day, I still love them. I just took a nice photo of Kit Fisto last year.
Nice.
I just love them, man. It's so fun. Like you said, based on either the cartoon, like Kit Fisto, obviously kind of more based on the Tartakovsky series.
Well, he got shirtless a couple times in the comics.
Yeah,
too,
I guess he was always popping the shirt, like
with pecs like that.
gazelle.
How could you keep the shirt on? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think, what is it? Mace Windu was kind of like a in between. I think a lot of them were kind of based on the to me, they've read more like characters from the Republic comics from Dark Horse, like with all the pockets and the gear and everything. Because I know those comics were very military. So
yeah, and I know because Anakin flew that. Did he fly that starfighter? The blue is it called the Blue Angel? No, it's not. But it has like the white that Plo Koon kind of repainted his own Jedi starfighter to look like Anakin's by episode 3 or whatever. I don't know, but it has the blue and the white stripes.
Yeah, that was.
I forget
if
he flew that in the comics. It was also in the micro series. So yeah, kind of comic figures, kind of animated figures, but like Ventress was more realistic looking, like her comic appearance. That subline also included, of course, the first super articulated Star Wars figure, the Clone Trooper,
with no peg hole. I found out the other day.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that was added later, and of course that figure itself was introduced into the vintage collection via the Republic Gunship in 2013, which was very outdated by that point. The figure, but bringing it back to TVC before anybody gets too antsy. So around 2004, 2005, the original trilogy coming back to DVD, Revenge of the Sith coming out. There wasn't a whole lot of space in the line for publishing type figures. But where it really blew up was between 2006 and 2010 with Saga Collection, 30th Anniversary, Legacy Collection, and Shadows of the Dark Side. So these lines would sprinkle expanded universe characters into the main line, typically from the Clone Wars micro series or video games for the most part. Like Saga Collection had some droid and trooper repaints. 30th Anniversary Collection, again, just bringing up the concept figures. It had the McQuarrie Signature series, about one figure per wave, which, again, the concept art is published, so kind of the same thing. And that ended with a whole wave for the Force Unleashed video game, which had comics too. I don't know, I guess it's kind of relevant. Legacy Collection was incredible for Expanded Universe fans. It really started with a wave of the exclusive Droid Factory figures exclusive to Walmart, which had a follow-up wave the next year in 2009. The Droid Factory, long before Disney ever used the term in their parks, it paired flesh and blood heroes with their droid companions, which brought in a lot of EU figures, like Corran Horn, who appeared in the X-Wing books and many others, and might have just appeared in Obi-Wan Kenobi as a child, as well as his droid Whistler. K3PX from the original Marvel Comics, Vader's droid, C3PX, the badass 90s C3PO who killed people from the the grim Dark Horse comics.
So
and
the triple zero, the 000 of Legends.
Yes. Yeah. And instead of painting him completely black, they just had like X's on him, and he had like, bandoliers and stuff. But the bandolier before Rise of Skywalker did it. But if he has a bandolier, he looks like he should have a bandolier, even if he doesn't. I don't know. But and then I5YQ from Darth Maul Shadowhunter, a book comic, whatever. I think it's a book, right? It was like an novella or something.
Yeah.
But they really dug deep for those. With some new, there was also a droids figure with Boba Fett. But a lot of was kind of the statement saying we're going to have a lot of expanded universe in this line. The main line Legacy Trade Factory introduced R7 units from the books, which I just got you a couple from the Disney parks, of course.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yes, and the Legacy Collection main line ended with the all expanded universe wave that became a Toys R Us exclusive because the line was on its last legs, but that perhaps most famously brought in Jason Solo and Jaina Solo, which, as I mentioned before, I lucked out. I found I'd gone to several Toys R Us that day, and the employee at the final store was able to bring out a fresh case for me because they thought they were sold out. But I said, "Could you just please check one more time?" And I got the entire wave. Opened them all up. Didn't think they were going to be so crazy valuable like they are today.
I have lucked out
later, right?
on those figures. I just got loose versions of them. Thank you, Greedo 737. You're just a great man. I got loose versions of those for not terrible prices, pretty good prices. A few months back, but I had carded versions of those that I scored. Lucky, got them $50 each on eBay back in 2018, somewhere in there, 2019. So
nice.
Yeah, those figures haunted me for quite some time.
Yes, there was also a Kruk from, based on his comic appearance. He also Kruk. I have no idea how to say half the expanded universe names, as we always talk about pronunciation on the show. But
I usually just give it a single k, like Kruk. So
many apostrophes, it's just ridiculous.
Right. So I did also get that figure too when I got Jason and Jaina. And shout out to my buddy Jeff for really taking some great photos of that figure a lot lately. He loves a good whippet. I get it. Those whippets are rad, man.
Whip it good, you might even say.
Name of the episode.
Yeah. These lines also brought in things like the Order 66 2-packs with some obscure Jedi and clones from the comics, Evolution sets with things like, again, shirtless Darth Maul now, multi-packs like the Royal Guard training set and some of the Joker Squad from the Legacy comics, not just Legacy Collection, vehicles such as repaints like the Elite TIE Interceptor, Aayla Secura's Jedi Starfighter, the Dagger Squadron B-Wing, the TIE Fighter with a big old Rebel symbol on it. But of course, the big publishing item from that time period was comic packs. That was the way to go if you wanted your comic figures at the time. Which, kind of started at the tail end of 2006 with Kirkanos and Carnajax. Instead of putting out one and naming it the other, they just got them both done at the same time, said, here you go. And then for a while, it had a lot of those, wacky repaints that we talk a lot about. They had a lot of the Vader and, Stormtroopers with like blue shading on them and stuff, which were
like to ape like the Marvel comic style.
Yeah, when they had simple coloring, they're not very accurate. They had like a green and yellow Tarkin. It was sort of the the carbonized of its day, if you will, but a little bit controversial. But some of those easy repaints and repacks helped to fund the new tooling throughout the line. And I guess I didn't really appreciate them as much at the time as I do now. But yeah, this line was incredible. It wasn't always, I'll say, articulation-wise. Sometimes they didn't have, well, as with all of these lines, they didn't always have, knees or ankles or, ball-jointed everything. But it was enough to get the point across, enough to look good on the shelf. This is, what we say when we want maybe more figures, that if there's a way to supplement TVC with figures like this, I don't think anybody would really complain. People would complain, but,
for Star Wars fans, all we do is complain.
Yes, but were you collecting you weren't really collecting in this time period, right?
No, it's one of my biggest regrets in life. Obviously my life is charmed.
Well, that's a pretty good regret, to have.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
I mean, I have many regrets, many deep regrets that I'm not going to get into on this podcast. But one of the greatest regrets I can share in a public setting is not collecting actively, from 2006 to about 2014. But that's what I wanted to bring up because I loved the Legacy comics so much, like, Cade Skywalker, Darth Krayt, all that stuff. I missed those figures when they're coming out. However, I do remember I found the comic pack that had the Imperial Knights, Antares Draco, and Ganner Krieg. Yeah, I remember those names.
Wow.
Love that pack so much. That was one of my favorite designs. White lightsabers before they were everywhere, before they were really a thing. Loved those Imperial Knight designs. So I remember finding that in Target and I did get it. That was one of the few items I got in that dark times that I wasn't collecting because I had such a connection to those Legacy comics. That was like my lifeline to Star Wars for just a little while. And it was great to have a couple figures for that. And then I remember finding, the Joker Squad from that comic as well, at a Ross for, I think it's still got the price sticker on it for $15.99, $14.99. So picked that up. Never opened that, but I did open the Imperial Knights. So I don't have those carded, but loved them. Again, the power of these publishing figures, man. It got me as I was like, I'm an adult. I don't need to do this anymore. And oh boy. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. I'll just say for the Legacy line, the Legacy comics, in addition to the Antares Draco, and Ganner Krieg, there was another Imperial Knight who was, I'm looking it up on Rebel Scum.
Siegel Dare,
yes. Where kind of like
I didn't have to look that up.
But she came with Darth Krayt, and there was also a set with, like you said, Cade Skywalker and Darth Talon. And then Delia Blue and
Darth Neil.
Yes.
So, again, love those comics, man. I love that I didn't have to look up any of those character names.
I remember, and I was going to say earlier that, I didn't really get into the post Return of the Jedi. I read a lot of like the prequel era, expanding the universe, like in between the movies and stuff, because that was really my jam at the time. And it still is, but you know what I mean. But I never really totally got into the post Return of the Jedi comics and books and stuff. It was just like there's just so much, and it was like maybe not what I would have done with it, and I don't know.
That sounds familiar.
Hashtag not my Cade Skywalker. Yeah, it's always dicey when you continue a legacy story, of course, as we all have learned many times on the internet over the years. But about the Darth Talon and Cade Skywalker set. Originally, Cade did not have a lightsaber in the set. It was the only lightsaber was Darth Talon's red lightsaber. They did a running change to include Cade's green saber. I got the version before he had a lightsaber, and then I had asked Hasbro, because they would, sometimes they send out replacement parts. I said, please, for the love of God, can you send me the Cade Skywalker lightsaber from that set? And they sent me a second Darth Talon lightsaber. So, sad to say, I still do not have the green lightsaber from that Cade figure, but the original version, which that's got to count for something, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I'll count it in my heart, man.
Thanks.
I love that comic. Again, another thing I could do an entire episode on is the Legacy comic and, Cade Skywalker. I'm bummed because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, they had talked about another one of Cade's, but it was him, Delia, who is the Zeltron, and the pink Zeltron, and then Jiraiya Sin was his buddy, and I could have swore there was a Jiraiya that was supposed to be coming to the comic packs, and it never happened.
I don't know. There was a few that were canceled that were shown. Like there was supposed to be I forget the Wookiee from Heir of the Empire, and then a Nogri warrior. Is it Ralra? No, not Ralra. I don't know. Probably Ralra. But I'll just use a guttural uttering, and then it'll sound like a Wookiee thing.
Yeah,
a Wookiee name. And then there was a repaint of Luke in his snowspeeder gear. It's supposed to be all white, and a Bespin Han who was like in a more stark Marvel pattern. I think it's just like darker jacket and lighter pants or something. But the white pilot suit was really striking, and I wish there was a way to get that out in some form or fashion. Instead, we get a rainbow version of the snowspeeder Luke figure in retro, so that's exactly the same thing.
Woohoo! Yeah, totally.
But so this included the comic pack included figures from all throughout the saga, from thousands of years before the movies to hundreds of years after.
Eula Caldroma and XR Kun.
Yep, that's what I was. Yeah, they were the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on
They're
your toes
incredibly
there.
expensive now, right?
Yeah, to the point.
Did you ever get those or not?
Nope, and nor will I at this point. So I could get the Kenobi lightsaber set for what it would cost to get one of those figures. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
because even loose, they're. I don't have eBay up, but it's
bad.
Incredible.
They're. I think I saw one that a loose one sold for like $800. I don't know if it was for both or if it was for just one of them. They are two of the rarest figures I can think of.
There's an $825 one with $25 shipping for buy it now carded. 300 loose. It's selling. Let's see what they sold for recently.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a while, but it's a rough one.
Yeah. So, let me you can.
Those are ones, if I were to win the lottery or if I were to kill someone who had won the lottery, I would absolutely get those figures.
It just recently sold. The pack carded sold for $750. Loose, there was $100. Yeah, around $750. It's nuts.
Oh my god!
And they're fine figures. I have all the expanded universe figures in order. So those are some of the earliest in the storyline of Legends. Yeah, and those are some of the last ones that came out in the main line. Then Entertainment Earth got a wave of the final four, which were Jariel and Roland Dyer from the Knights of the Old Republic, Delia Blue and Darth Nihil from Legacy, Baron Suntir Fel and Isain Isard from Rogue Squadron, X-Wing Rogue Squadron, and Montross and Jester Muriel from Jango Fett Open Seasons. Those were shunted off to Entertainment Earth as an exclusive wave. I think you might have had to buy all four together, or I don't remember, but yeah, a lot of fun stuff in there. A lot of fun Jedi from the Republic comics. A lot of so many clones.
Obi-Wan with his torture mask and Jabeam. Back in original canon, Jabeam. When you got Anakin when he thought Obi-Wan was dead, he's all muddy with the short cut up cloak, and the what is it? Not the YV droid, but there was a assassin droid that he fought. So
yes. Let's look at the Republic.
I love, man. Obviously, I was still really into the comics. That whole span. Yes, publishing is just as much Star Wars as the movies and TV shows are. Damn it! Listen to me yell at the clouds.
Here's another list, but of the Republic, I just searched Republic on Yak Face. There was Quinlan Vos, the first Quinlan Vos figure in Vilmar Gark, Villy. There was Obi-Wan, as you're talking about, with ARC Trooper Alpha. Anakin Skywalker and Assassin Droid, Commander Keller and Galactic Marine. That was from the sort of post Revenge of the Sith storyline with Quinlan Vos. Then another Asajj Ventress with Toll Score, who looked like a kind of a Southern rocker or something.
Yeah, Kid Rock went to the dark side. Oh wait,
yeah. And then Clone Trooper and Clone Commander, which I think was the 212th version. No, that was the Kashyyyk 41st version, also from the Quinlan stuff. Tra, Saw, and Master Thulm, the Tree Lady Jedi. And Jariel and... No, that's from Knights of the Old Republic. Excuse me. So many eras, and you could, a little bit from here, a little bit from there. It's just so expensive.
Did they ever make Zane?
Now they're expensive. No, they never made Zane Carrick.
Okay.
And I know that was a big... there were a few oversights at the time where everybody's like, well, yeah, a lot of the secondary characters from Knights of the Old Republic comics, or the Old Republic comics. And they made... What did they made? People were mad they made Baron Fel without his... I forget what the whole controversy was. He was in a Imperial thing. There was a goatee. The goatee was in the wrong figure or something. I don't know. People were mad about. See, that was how nitpicky we can get. Now we're just like, please give us anything from these.
Ooh,
back then it was like...
I know another Republic figure though, which doesn't really count as Republic. They counted as the Hunt for Aurra Sing. I think it was Ashrad Het, and he was in with the Dark Woman, and I think it was a Hunt for Aurra Sing comic that they packed him in with. But he had a removable Tusken mask, and we never saw his face until the Republic comics when that was one of my favorite issues of Star Wars anything, is him and Anakin are working with Ki-Adi-Mundi when Anakin thinks Obi-Wan is dead, and Anakin hates him because he's a Tusken, and Anakin just slaughtered a bunch of them not too long ago in that timeline. And he's, Ashrad is just like, hey man, I'm not going to tell anyone what you did. That's between you and your God. So if you can make peace with that, good for you, but you let that weigh on your heart and you feel that. And then he's like, look, I'm a human. And he takes off his mask and he's like, I just
What?
believe I live as a Tuscan. It's not, we're not savages. And whatever. It's a nice little morality play. Love that issue. I wish I could remember that off the top of my head. I might have to reread it later today, but
nice. Yeah. The comic packs, they brought out both of the hats. They brought out Sharad hat with Kiadi Mundi with a new hat. Which was awesome. I don't know where he gets his hats from that head, but and then Asherad with.
There's a whole planet of them, John. They have to make clothing.
There's a haberdasher on Syria.
Yeah.
So yeah. But so I don't know. Do you have a lot of these figures? Have you gone back and gotten a lot? I got them all at the time, of course.
Yeah. I've had to do a lot of backfilling, like I said, with Jason and Jaina. I just got a loose Asherad and Dark Woman finally. I got a lot of them actually over the last few months. Over the last year, I added most of them. And I think the only legacy comic ones I'm missing are Delia and Darth Nil. I don't have loose of Joker Squadron. I just have my card or my packaged ones, but I might open those. So yeah, those are ones that I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know if it's fun to sit there and spend irresponsible amounts of money, but I'm having a lot of excitement. There we go. I'm getting a lot of excitement tracking those down and finding deals on those. They're incredible. Even if they're not up to modern standards, man, like Asherad Het is one of my absolute all-time favorite Star Wars characters in general. So having a good figure of him is great. It makes me really happy.
Nice. I'm trying to look. Yeah, because I don't have quite the emotional connection to these stories as you do, but just some of the figures were so awesome. There's Luke. There was, I guess, 2 packs of him with Adina Shan, but one where they're in like the all black tactical outfits, which is just so dope.
Yep.
And I remember the Kofi Arana and Boltar Swan, where she's a little more armored. This is before they made a Boltar Swan from Attack of the Clones, but from the Purge comics. And Kofi Arana, he has like Vader's cut off arm, like stabbing him, and you can have the knife connects to a hole in his chest, which is awesome. You always got to rotate it every couple of years because it sags after a while, but it's such a cool display. But you can build it out with not just the comic packs, but the Order 66 packs with some of the troopers that they fought in that issue, and there's all the different little sublines and ways to get the expanded universe figures into the line as they did at the time, which was just really, really awesome. So
I was shocked that they didn't lean too hard into New Jedi Order for figures in those years.
Yes, and I think we've talked about it before, but I think because the New Jedi Order existed mostly as books, right? Not as comics.
Correct, but
so obviously as comics, they didn't have novel packs.
Yeah,
yes, it was a big event, but I remember at the time, I think Daryl had said, and I know you disagreed with this to a point, but since comics are inherently more visual than novels you just got to hallucinate in your brain, and then that's where the pictures come from, other than the covers. So I think they would lean more into the comics because more visual reference exists for those. Obviously now, like with the High Republic and stuff, they have concept art or official imagery of the figures of the characters.
Yeah.
And you have created some, but we'll get into that. But I think, as important as the novels are to a lot of people, I think because, the comics are more visual.
Yeah.
Like if they were to bring it, like I love Bloodline. I love Ransom Casterfo, but I have no idea what he looks like officially.
Tom Hiddleston, right?
Yeah, he looks like Tom Hiddleston with a cape, which is also Loki. I have that figure already. It's in a different line and a different scale. But
there you go.
So it's hard. So they could just put out a senator-looking guy in a cape, and it's like, who's this guy? Oh, he's that guy from the book that you like. Oh, okay, I didn't imagine he looked like that, but okay. So it's a little dicey. I think Jason and Jaina were some of the main book figures that they put out.
If you ask me, it is criminal that they didn't complete the Solo family when they had the chance and do Anakin Solo in those years.
I know he was. Didn't George or somebody at Lucasfilm was like, you gotta knock it off with this Anakin Solo guy. He's way too confusing with Anakin Skywalker. And they killed him off.
Then we had Ben Skywalker, and now we have another guy. So
I was gonna say, you try not to bring him up, God bless you, but we almost got there.
Yep.
Love it.
Got another family.
So that leads us into Vintage Collection.
Mm-hmm.
So in TVC 1.0, of course, Expanded Universe figures had a dedicated Expanded Universe card between 2010 and 2012 when they made those figures. In addition to VC-54 ARC Trooper Commander from the Clone Wars Micro Series, there were 5 from video games. I'll say Bastila Shan from Knights of the Old Republic, Malgus, Shea Vizsla, and Republic Trooper from the Old Republic, and Starkiller from Force Unleashed. Is that from Force Unleashed 2? I think it's from Force Unleashed 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the only novel figure from the New Jedi Order is Nam Anor, the Yuzan Vong guy, who I guess it wasn't comics, but it was mostly novels, correct?
It was mostly all novels, but it was around this time in late aughts, like before the Disney buyouts or early 2010s, that Dark Horse finally branched into the New Jedi Order era with Invasion. Mm-hmm. It was a comic that they did, and it was, I think, the first New Jedi Order comic. First time we saw the Yuzan Vong in comics, really. And I think it was also kind of related because they were still kind of planning on maybe doing something. Filoni was with the Clone Wars of doing some Yuzan Vong stuff, but
right, that was like they're going to be totally different, but because they wanted to like extra galactic, it was more like an alien invasion, like not like a full war invasion like it was in the New Jedi Order, but it was more like we need some weird aliens to come in, like
exploratory forces, kind of thing. Like the harbingers of the of the later invasion.
Yeah, and but on the back of the Nam Anor figure, he is credited to the Crimson Empire 2 from Dark Horse Comics in 1998. It was like before, I think they just kind of had like a mysterious dark hooded figure in that comic to say, oh, there's bad stuff coming. So stay tuned, reader. And then they kind of fleshed that out years later. But yeah, it's based mostly on his novel appearance. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
And I know you're not a big fan of the New Jedi Order itself as a series.
Yeah, just I haven't really read it, but I remember back in the day I was like, do we need Chewbacca getting squished by a moon? That was kind of the big thing. Or I was hashtag not my Chewbacca, but
I'll just say give it another shake at some point if you ever have the time, because I've been slowly going back through it in between other Star Wars books as if I read anything else. Whatever.
Is there anything else?
No, there's Dune and then there's Star Wars books, and that's all you need to know. But yeah, I've been really enjoying them a lot. Like they've aged well, if that makes sense, because we have the other options. Like,
yes,
again, being a person who has such a background in being a comic book fan, this whole multiple timeline stuff, different universes.
Yeah.
I don't understand the issue anyone has with that. Like, because one exists doesn't mean the other doesn't, whatever.
Well, I think now, like at the time, I think I was like, I don't like that this is the quote unquote official version of events, but I think now even though again, George would have never said that was the case, but the marketing guys and the publishing guys said that was the case. Because they got books to sell, they got units to move.
Well, they even got Mark Hamill to record a teaser for Vector Prime. So
yeah, but and even that was coming out as I think George was focused on the prequels, and then he was like, I'm not going to ever do the sequels, so go ahead and play in that sandbox for a while if you want.
Yeah, it's a lot of the prequels flair and panache, but in the original trilogy setting, like in the original trilogy universe with those characters.
I think, but yeah, so now that it's not the only one, now that it's not the official one, I think I can look at it for what they are instead of, what they're claim they're trying to be, maybe.
Yeah. They're fun, man. They're a lot of fun. I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so that's really the only Vintage Collection did not have a lot of Expanded Universe figures in the first run anyway. And then once we got into Black Series 3.75, aside from a couple of the TVC video game repacks like Darth Malgus and Starkiller, the only EU figures in the Black Series were in the 3.75 inch were Darth Plagueis, who was really a movie character mentioned in Revenge of the Sith, of course, but based on his Expanded Universe appearance, as well as Mara Jade, the third Mara Jade. There was another one in the comic packs line. She won the 2011 Fans' Choice Poll as Mara Jade Skywalker. So I think a lot of people, at least some people that I saw at the time, thought that she would have her green Jedi robes from one of the book covers. But instead Hasbro opted to do the third cat suit So who knows if they're ever going to do I'm assuming they're never going to do another version, at least in their real scale.
Yeah.
There's rumors abound of a 6-inch version, but
and I would hazard a guess any new version would be the iconic catsuit version. So
yes, I assume as close as we'll get is a repack of this one, hopefully with a new head or at least a new hair. That hair was insane. She's an incredibly 90s character in a lot of ways, but the 2013 figure looked like an 80s music video star, rock star.
Shea Vizsla, yeah, right.
Yes.
Shea Vizsla goes to show, though, that even with something so simple as just a new head sculpt on that old figure, really elevates it and brings it to a new level. Even though it's not at the modern level of articulation, it's still a damn nice figure. So
it's still good. And of course, Tyler put the Shea Vizsla head, and I'm sure other people have, but they put the Shea Vizsla head on the Mara Jade body, and it looks a lot better. Maybe that was a way for the Star Wars team to get out a new Mara Jade head without, Lucasfilm being like, don't go there. I don't know. But I'm sure she's on the table at some point.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would love to see that figure repacked into, of course, I always want to ask for new, but if we're to get a Mara Jade and the only way to do it is a repack, I would love to see a repack of that figure with a new head sculpt on a TVC card.
She's going for about, I don't know, 40, 50, $60 online carded in the Black Series. What about good old
Plagueis is another one that...
The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise is that he's going for about 50.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. That was one I found that one at the Disney store because he was pretty rare back in the day. It was hard to find him on regular store shelves, but I guess Disney store was a regular store. R.I.P.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool figure. I remember seeing I had done some photography for Sir Steve's Guide for that figure, and that was used as like a big conspiracy that Rey's staff was Plagueis' staff because the action figure came with a staff, which he used in like one comic appearance or something. Like it wasn't like important to his story whatsoever.
No.
It was just like a cool accessory for the figure to hold. And they're like, oh my God, it's Rey's staff. So I got to see that photo used a couple times in like clickbait articles back in the day. Yeah. Anyway.
Simpler times.
Yes. So moving back into TVC for 2.0, we don't have a lot of, we have a lot of video game characters in TVC 2.0, thanks to gaming greats. A lot from Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Battlefront 2, Force Unleashed, a repack of Starkiller coming up, Cal Kestis coming up, a whole pack of Jedi Survivor figures coming up. Yeah, we are flush with video game characters in TVC 2.0. And but for publishing, we don't have a ton. We have VC 129 Dr. Aphra from the Marvel Comics, who also won a Fans' Choice poll.
It's a really nice figure.
It's a very nice figure, and she was released alongside her droids BT1 and 000 in that Dr. Aphra comic set as a Comic-Con exclusive. And we were told those two droids would be re-released, and they never were. But at least
never too late.
Yeah, there's still time. But she got her card, and that was in the era when. So after 2012 Vintage Collection went away, the figures anyway. 2014, that's when they said Expanded Universe. Now that's Legends. We're not going to use the term Expanded Universe anymore. We all know that whole situation. So now new figures in TVC 2.0 did not have the Expanded Universe designation anymore. We've seen a couple of repacks, Shea Vizsla and the Old Republic Trooper, still use the Expanded Universe card. It's the same front of the card, other than legal warnings.
Reissues.
Repacks.
Yeah.
But so for a while, the Expanded Universe non-movie, non-TV show figures were using the classic A New Hope Star Wars double racetrack card.
And you don't like that, do you?
I don't like that. I disagreed with that decision. I think, keep it to A New Hope, in my opinion. Or you were talking about, doing some of these like comic characters we'll discuss in a minute, but on A New Hope, on a Star Wars card, it was before it was A New Hope. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I think maybe of that era could work. We got Boba Fett on that card, which kind of opens the door to characters that were kind of introduced around that time, pre-Empire Strikes Back on a Star Wars card. But something about, I like Dr. Aphra, the character. I like her comics. I like some of these other ones. I like the gaming greats, but I'm much happier now that they're doing gaming greats. They shifted after the first wave of gaming greats, putting the little video game logo on the bottom right to putting it front and center in the big, bold red text, Battlefront 2 or Jedi Fallen Order or whatever.
It just makes them feel cooler.
I guess I get that people don't want to have a million different sublines for every property, but I think that's the way to go. Especially we already have a nice little subset of Battlefront 2 figures. We have a nice little subset of Jedi Fallen Order figures,
except for the mains.
Except the main guys, but yeah, that's all right. or the Clone Wars micro series now is on that card, whereas the original ARC Trooper was on the Expanded Universe card. Anyway, that's my little rant about the Star Wars card. But so we also,
So like Dr. Aphra being on a regular Star Wars card, she's introduced in the Marvel Star Wars comics right after A New Hope, and that's that in between. So
sure,
she gets a pass for being on a Star Wars card.
What I meant by like A New Hope era, I meant like real life era, like 1977 to 1979.
Okay, you don't mean canon, like in universe.
I don't mean so like she can kind of get away with it, and then I don't know what's. But I'll just say real quick,
what would you put on it though? Because the comic's only called Star Wars.
I know. So, she got her Dr. Aphra comics.
Well,
now,
At the time though, she didn't.
I'll just say real quick before we get too far down. There's two other figures, non-video game figures, that were released on that card, not from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The Shadow Trooper from the Legends comics, and Hondo Onaka from the Galaxy's Edge ensemble.
I do wish his said Galaxy's Edge,
because we got the big old Falcon repack on a Star Wars box as well, which I wish that would have had Galaxy's Edge. It's a little tricky with some of these. Yeah, would you call them comics? Would you call them cool comic characters? I don't know. Cool comic
characters.
Yeah.
Cool comic characters.
I need that alliteration no matter what.
Yeah. Page punchers.
The princes of publishing, the princesses of publishing. I get your argument with the Star Wars era for Dr. Aphra. It's just something about like, I don't. It's just strange. It's just a little bit off for me. So if they do more, let's get some more ideas. Let's throw out some more ideas on the big board, huh? But anyway, there aren't a lot more in TVC 2.0.
No.
And as we said, we know there's so much to get to. There's original trilogy heroes that have not been updated since 2004.
And finished the 96.
Vintage card anyway. Yeah. Finished the 96. There's all the new movies, all the TV shows, everything in between.
Yeah. But not a lot of room, not a lot of time. But
yes, but as we got to at the top, the Black Series is bringing out the publishing program, which started as part of the Lucasfilm 50th. They already had they have some Expanded Universe figures. Jaina Solo in her pilot outfit won the Fan's Choice, which she has not been made in her pilot outfit in 3.75, and should be awesome to see in that look as well.
Balance the scales, Hasbro.
Yes. I'll just say real quick on the Fan's Choice front. Expanded Universe figures tend to do very well on those when there is one to rally behind.
Mm-hmm.
When we did the top 25 submissions the last couple of years, they don't do. There's a lot of Expanded Universe figures that show up, but they only get a couple of votes here and there.
It's a scattershot, man.
Yeah, it's so scattershot. There's nothing to rally behind specifically. When there's only 5 choices and one of them is an Expanded Universe figure, all the Expanded Universe figure fans will show their support by all voting for that one character. But, when there's so many options, it's hard to rally behind one, I guess. So there is demand, but it's hard for people to pick a specific figure, I think.
Yeah. I get that, man. I do. It's overwhelming when you look at the amount of things that you want and what's unmade. Yeah. And it just keeps stacking up by the day. So
yes. But if we want to get back into the Black Series, the specific figures that are done, because these are, as you mentioned, mostly low tooling, a lot of reuse.
Yeah. So, you had, what was the first wave was Luke Skywalker from Heir to the Empire, which was just a simple black repaint of the Dagobah Luke that they had just done. Darth Maul, Sith Apprentice, his shirtless look, which we've had versions of in 3 3/4 inch.
And that was new tooling, but they have since reused it a couple times on various Knight Brothers for the Gaming Greats line.
New tooling, but they used old tooling for his legs and stuff. So he was a partial tool. So Jackson, this was the one that stung the most, was a character that people have been asking for 40 some years in 3 3/4 inch, and his first figure goes to the Black Series, who didn't buy him, and you can still get him for clearance prices as websites are trying to get rid of him. So
and he was clever tooling of like the upper torso of X-Wing Luke and the legs of Tatooine Luke. And, if anybody says, we need Baze and Krennic before Jackson, no, Jackson has been around since right after the original movie. And it was kind of a little bit of a joke request, kind of alongside like Wilro Hood. But it's just one of those things that has been a fan request for, like you said, 4 decades. Or, that one stung a little bit to fight. It was sort of one of those things that I never thought we'd see. And then we see it in Black Series. So hopefully there's a way to get him in TVC anyway.
I mean, a lot of these, and looking at the list, and we'll go over it again, these are all simple partial tools and repaints that could also be, a lot of these could be achieved in TVC as well with just minimal tooling budget. But we had, like for example, Kirk Hanos or Carner Jax, whoever it was, not even Hasbro knows, whoever they put out in that first wave of the publishing figures from Crimson Empire. Honestly, all they'd have to do for that is they just have to make a second head, because they already have, isn't the head on the Imperial Guard kind of based on one of those guys already in TVC?
I will give Hasbro a little credit. I can't tell them apart. I don't know these guys that well.
But it's just one of those, they already have the base figure for the Imperial Guard was based on Crimson Empire. And
well, because like the one in TVC, it's like their training pajamas, so to speak. Whereas the Black Series tooled it in ahead of time, where it's more of the armored look. I will say, because we got them in the comic pack version, I don't need them again.
I just think they'd be easy to achieve if they were to want to do them again. So simple repaint, honestly, for me, but I'd just be happy. And then they did a second wave of them this year,
which is just shipping now.
Princess Leia.
Some of us scale traders have those coming in the mail soon. But
I only ordered one of these, and even then, I don't know if I kept that pre-order. But Princess Leia from her 2015 Marvel look, which is basically just a variation on the Bespin look with some gloves and boots. That's another one they could probably throw together somehow.
Because she had 2 looks in her comic appearance. She had both of them have sort of new boots and new gloves. Sometimes she wears a brown vest, and sometimes she wears like a cape. They've both been featured in the comics, both been featured on the cover. The one with the vest is also in Battlefront 2. So that's one I could very easily see them getting into the Gaming Greats line, and I would love to see that. That's one of my expanded universe canon they got to have a new term for this, but canon non-movie non-TV figures,
Star Wars Galaxy
figures, if you will. So that could be a twofer, get the vest and the cape and call it a day, I guess. I think she has a different hairstyle, but
but these they can take some liberties with these, since they're not based on films or TV shows.
Definitely.
And Sergeant Creel, leader of Scar Squadron from the comics. He's a stormtrooper with a lightsaber. That's about it. An orange pauldron, and then kind of more like First Order stormtrooper looking chest.
Some more gear on his kit, I guess.
And a cape sometimes. But
that's not on the figure, I don't think.
No, but see, that's an easy one to achieve. It's another really easy one to achieve. And then Darth Vader Redeemed from Return of the Jedi Infinities, which this is the easiest one. Just take that amazing Dark Times Vader that we just got, paint it white. The end.
Don't even paint it. We got we did get that in a comic pack.
We did.
That's another one where I'm not too bummed if they don't redo it.
I'm not too bummed if they don't, but it'd be with this definitive, amazing Vader.
That's true.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And then lastly, I was hesitant to even count this one. I know we've talked nothing but smack on this, and I will continue because it's absolute junk. Chrysanthemum, to round out that wave from his heavy air quotes comic book appearance. No, it was just they were lazy, and they had the Chewbacca mold around, and they were like, let's just cast it in black and call it Chrysanthemum. Like, no, come on, man, this is crap.
It was a little bit
crap.
Because even in his comic appearance, I mean, he's huge in Book of Boba Fett when he finally appeared, which was awesome.
Yeah, he's a monster.
But he was
in the
even
comic
bigger
books.
in the comics. Yeah. So
Stupid.
A little disappointing to see that. So I get that this is a low tooling line, similar to Gaming Greats.
Yeah, but that's like,
which I fully understand. That's a little taking it a little too far. I think
that's like a $28 Java repack or a $200 reissue of a Slave One. Those that's one of those bottom three moves that I think they've done recently. So
yeah, and then they were quick to pipeline the Book of Boba Fett version for Black Series, and we hope it's coming to Vintage. There's say no more on that topic, but hopefully soon we'll hear something official.
Yeah.
But if they want to do a comic version, I would say take the Book of Boba Fett version and then, simplify the paint apps, whatever you got to do, different accessories, whatever. I would really vastly prefer the Book of Boba Fett version.
I would only prefer the Book of Boba Fett version.
Yes.
I don't even want to give them the option of copying out and doing anything else.
I'm sure it was poor timing on, just everything, because I'm sure they didn't know he was coming to Book of Boba Fett.
And they just
when they made the Black Series. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I would love to, but it's so bad. It was so bad.
It's very disappointing, but
yeah.
So now,
just real quick, I mean, I mentioned it on a couple of them, but like on my phone when I was bored and going through the 8 that we have and 9, if you kind of want to count the 2019 Star Wars Luke that they did, that they later repacked in the main line as Yavin Luke, but they just gave him a lightsaber to say he was from the comics. That's one that to do the Heir to the Empire one, just use the Black Series 3 3/4 inch Dagobah Luke as a base, but with new arms. Put a newer head on it, and maybe maybe add some rocker ankles, and then add the Imperial Light Cruiser head sculpt, put it on there. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. They did a different Heir to the Empire Luke years ago with the second Mara Jade figure in the comic packs, where he has the Dagobah tank top, but then he has like the X-wing pilot pants.
Yeah,
and the kind of the jacket kind of falling off of his back. And that was a cool look, but yeah, it would be nice to have the black suited Luke as well.
Yeah. And then for Jackson, to kind of do similar what they did for Black Series, use the X-Wing pilot Luke torso, new rabbit head sculpt, and maybe the new Luke legs from the Imperial Light Cruiser Luke, and then a new whatever his chest piece is, throw it on there. So simple.
And I'll say Jackson was my number 10 on the top 25.
So he's got a good chance of happening then, since he's on your list. Anything that's on mine, it's never going to happen. But
yes, most of the figures on my list have already been made. So
yeah, good for you. Good for you. Good for you. And then, Darth Maul, Sith Apprentice, they don't really need to do that again because we have had versions. But I mean, they could do a light update of what already exists. I think would be rad. Throw the Mandalore Maul head on it.
I would only want that so that they could do more Night Brothers any Night Brothers from Jedi Fallen Order.
But yeah, these
similar to how they did in Black Series.
To high mileage things, which I'm not going to disagree with. Kirkanos, all that, whatever. We mentioned that. Princess Leia, Marvel Star Wars. You could do it with the Bespin Leia head and torso, maybe the Fennec or armor, or Fennec. Use the Fennec legs maybe, or the Fennec and armor arms for like a gloved look. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Vader Redeemed, obviously repaint the Dark Times Obi-Wan Vader. Sergeant Creel, I wrote, use pretty much the new Stormtrooper with the rocker ankles and all that. And maybe the First Order Stormtrooper torso or a new torso, something like that. And throw in the cape.
I don't think the Black Series one, I think it's just the basic Stormtrooper with some stuff added to it. They didn't kit bash it with the First Order guy, did they?
Oh, no, I don't think they, well, he's got a different torso. He should have a more sleek torso than a regular Stormtrooper.
Should, but does not on the figure.
Okay. So in the Vintage Collection one, make it a little more accurate. Just make either tool up a new one or just reuse something that's slightly sleeker. Then that, and then Chrysanthemum, don't just do the Book of Boba Fett version. So
Yes.
Anyway,
And they're, if they do more of Scar Squadron in Black Series, it'd be interesting to see what else they do. There's some, other dudes have different helmets, or
there's a
really
bigger
big,
dude,
bulky guy, a wrecker kind of guy.
Yeah, I
Or
feel like they're
let's
just going to reuse the wrecker mold, but
yeah, that's very, very possible and likely. I would prefer Lone Force 99 before Task Force 99, of course, but
yeah, of course.
I just got to throw that out there again. I think if you want to talk about wants,
please let's jump to the wants.
Like you said, I would prefer, if they're gonna do this, I'd prefer they do it from the newer Marvel comics instead of any Legends stuff. I feel Legends is generally well covered. I know, yes, we could have rocker ankles on everybody and all that, photoreal on Mara Jade, etc., but if they're going to go down this road, I would generally prefer canon stuff for the most part.
I'll agree with you there.
I think, I had a list of comic packs years ago that I wanted to see the Princess Leia in her comic outfit with Yvonne Verlaine, another Evan type figure from her, which would be a cool female rebel pilot, which then they could reuse many times over. They had a female rebel pilot in like the Legacy 30th days, but it's been a while. So.
Can I just jump in here? I feel like this is the perfect time to just say, can we just get Hasbro to spend the money on like super sculpts for just male and female Jedi pilots? We've already got the Mandalorians, but just
Imperial
Imperial officers, just do generic ones that you can just kit bash, repaint, reuse, whatever, as much as you want.
Yeah.
Like that would open up so many possibilities. Anyway, continue.
Well, yeah, but another possibility for the female pilot would be Shara Bay, Poe Dameron's mom from the comics, from Shattered Empire. They could pack in with Cass Dameron, the dad.
Oh yeah.
Who was a Rebel Pathfinder, then they could use that part for other Rebel troopers. Sana Staros is another big character from the comics. She'd be an awesome figure. That was one of the many 1,000 controversies ago when it was turned out that Han Solo had a wife, which was not really a wife,
but he's going after Leia. Disney
throwing this away. Yeah. People had to wait 1 week for the next issue or a month for the next issue.
It was a ruse. Month of all time.
It was a cliffhanger to get you to keep reading. Imagine that.
I don't understand storytelling.
Yeah. I really like the Poe Dameron comics a lot.
Yeah.
And there are some fun characters in there. Some more X-Wing pilots, but these would be Resistance pilots. They could do a Jess Pava, who's also in Force Awakens. They could do Surilinda Javos, whatever. Another X-Wing pilot. It could be a way to get the Poe in his Resistance jacket out there with Agent Terex in Stormtrooper armor. It could be a reuse of the First Order Stormtrooper. From the Kanan comics, which we have now seen in Bad Batch, other versions of Commander Gray, Captain Gray now. But I would love to see, I guess these are more Bad Batch figures now, but Padawan Kanan with a new Depa Billaba. At some point, I would love to see a Rey Sloane figure on the Imperial officer female body that doesn't exist, but would be great for, again, Tala, we've mentioned before. Those are some of my wants from, the newer comics, which I would love to see.
Yeah, there's no... That's one thing that I've really loved about the new canon is that there's still no shortage of things from these books that, we're still getting stuff that we want. And I mean, it is frustrating with the limited figure slots. Like, look at the High Republic era. It's an entire era of Star Wars that we're never going to see action figures from. And that's one that, that probably takes up most of my list in terms of wants from publishing. So it's one of those where that would require more unique tooling. So I think that even decreases the chances even more. However, if they were to go ahead and say to make one of the lead Jedi from the High Republic era, they'd then have the basis to crank out many more just off of that basis. Cause they all have a
similar uniform,
unique similar uniform. They each of course have two. They have their council and, dress up, white and gold, and then their regular kind of brown and whatever more familiar Jedi looks, which again, make a generic Jedi body, male and female. Possibilities are endless. You can crank out figures that I will buy tons of for no reason. But I just read Shadow of the Sith, and I think Luke would be a great one from that. It just reuse the Crate Luke figure, maybe re-engineer the bottom of the legs, give him the correct green lightsaber and a younger head sculpt. there you go.
That'd be awesome.
And it's a good way
Yeah.
for them to get that Crate Luke figure back out there, because he's commanding a high value on the secondary market without having to do a retread. So,
not to interrupt, but while you're on the Shadows of the Sith train of the same era from the book, who's also in the comics, I would love to see an Ochi of Bastoon.
Yep.
In his in the movie, he kind of looks like a dried up prune or something. He looks like a SpongeBob when he goes into Sandy's dome without the water.
Yeah.
But
water.
He looks but I really love the look of his mask, his helmet from the comics.
Yeah.
And that would be really cool.
That would be rad. He can come with the Sith dagger. This blade has done terrible things.
A way to get some.
We learn more
episode
about
9
that
stuff.
Yep. And in the book, they describe him as, he's got a grotesque, tight little face with gross little mechanical eyes. It's like, yeah, he's gross.
He does.
But yeah, and if they were to ever make an Ewok Village Leia in TVC, which we've got coming in Black Series, and
hopefully it's for the 40th. I hope to go with the new Han. That would be
you would
perfect.
Love that. And then guess what? They could, really leverage that to make the wedding dress version. I'm sure based on the book, how I've read the book, they could leverage the new Han that they do to also make a wedding version. They could make.
Did he get dressed up very much? It seems like he kind of doesn't get dressed up.
Lando tricked him into wearing a nice jacket. That was about it. So,
okay.
But yeah, and then, High Republic characters, Markion Ro, Stellan Geo, Savar Chris, Buryaga, the Wookiee Jedi, Geode, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Geode would be easy. Just
super articulated Geode.
Yeah, put a rock in there. Call it good. Yeah, there's just a lot that they could do there. I would love to see Quinlan and Ventress from Dark Disciple, put them on Clone Wars cards, because,
Yes.
Clone Wars story. Rael Averos from Master and Apprentice. I may or may not have a card back for that I was playing with some fun technology for. So, yeah.
Again, to reiterate for the 8th time, but yeah, a lot of these could be a little bit low tooling to not supersede any of the other figures that we want in the main line, of course, but just another way to expand it, get some more fans coming into the line, get some more of the book fans who maybe don't collect as much to get excited about stuff, and that can only help bring more people into the line,
boost the profile of these things that aren't the movies and TV shows. There's a better chance someone will know about a video game like Jedi Survivor than they would about The Princess and the Scoundrel or Shadow of the Sith. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, going back to thinking of young me, seeing these figures and being incredibly curious of where they're from, and then just learning and devouring more Star Wars lore and getting further into the fandom. I think it's sad to not see that happen in the modern era. So what can you do? I did open up the floor the other day on Instagram just for some responses to see what you, the listeners, or the Instagram followers were kind of thinking. Just a few of the responses. Captain Cardinal, he's in Black Series already. He was in the Phasma book, so easy. Ventress from Dark Disciple, Dash Rendar, everybody's favorite Han Solo wannabe, as you said. Dark Disciple Ventress and Quinlan again. Joris Kaboth and Pelion to round out the Heir to the Empire cast.
Patrick loves Joris, so
yes,
let's get him in. Use that ripped, shredded body for a new the mall, as we said.
Yeah.
Gotta have soft goods robe to have it open and flowing like on the book cover. So
yeah, Lewis wrote in and said Markion Ro. Yeah, Lewis, Markion Ro rocks. Someone said Harry Potter. You know what? Whatever, I'll take it. Watto. I don't remember Watto's book. And Bylart Valance or Avar Chris, more High Republic, High Republic folks. So
Valance is another one. He was in the original Marvel comics and now has been reintroduced into the new canon within the last couple of years.
Yeah, with his own series essentially.
He could go with Jackson for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get Jackson. Jackson is my most wanted publishing figure overall, I would say.
Keep putting them on your list, John. They like your lists. They like your lists. I will stop making lists because anything that I want, they look at it and they say, this is not what we should make. So there we go. Sorry, gang. Good thing all of you seem to hate my choices anyway. So
I'll put a couple High Republic figures on next year. I read the books by then. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so, man. They're good. Phase 2 kicks off next month.
I'd like to.
Yep. Well, Phase 2 is a prequel era, so prequel phase. So you got time, really.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, any final thoughts on publishing greats, literary legends, page punchers?
Let's get them in. Let's get them going. Come on.
Sweet. I agree. We need them. All right. Well, hey, gang, I think that's a perfect place to kind of wind down on this episode of the SWTVC podcast. As always, if you can find the link in our bio on at SWTVC on Instagram, feel free to like and share and review or whatever the show. It definitely helps us out. Hopefully this episode will be on Apple Podcasts when it's supposed to be. Still trying to figure that out with the previous episode. Hopefully you can disregard this part by the time this episode drops. So whatever. All right. Well, for the SWTVC podcast, I'm Evan. And as always, balance the scales, Hasbro. Back TVC. Finish the 96. Keep 375 alive. And may the force be with you.